Hello, everyone. We are about to start. Okay. Can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me now? All right, good evening, everyone. We are about to get started, so if we could please all take our seats. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming to our Rancho Bernardo and Forest Ranch Community Hall. My name is Zach Kneep, and I have the pleasure of being an executive intern in the Community Outreach Department for County Supervisor Joel Anderson's office. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge Joshua Stewart, a community representative attending from Council Member Marty Von Wolfert's office, who is with us here today. I would also like to thank our exceptional co-hosts and community partners. First is the San Diego Oasis, Rancho Bernardo, who graciously opened this beautiful space for us today. Additionally, I would like to thank the Rancho Bernardo Sunrise Rotary Club, who generously provided all of the refreshments in the back of the room. Before I begin, I'd like to start with our rules of engagement for today. The supervisor wants to hear from all of you. However, not all of your neighbors might feel the same. Supervisor Anderson is committed to staying on site as long as it takes. The supervisor will take one question from each person who raises their hand before calling on the same person twice. To respect everyone's time, only direct questions will be answered. Please reserve statements and speeches regarding your opinion for after the event. Please be courteous of each other, listen without interrupting, and help us maintain a respectful space. I would now like to introduce Muwan and Rashad from Troop 685 to lead us in our flag salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you again, Muwan and Rashad from Troop 685 for leading us in our pledge and your continued service to our community. I can't hear you. Sorry. Now I would like to introduce District 5340 Governor of the Sunrise Rotary Club, Jeb Baca, to say a few words.
Do this in the right order. I'm going to get this mic so you guys can hear me. Can you hear me now? All right. I get the honor and the privilege of introducing our district supervisor. The privilege to stand up here with all of you today as we recognize an individual who has devoted many of his years to lifting up and supporting our community. His dedication, steady advocacy, and genuine commitment to the people of District 2 have made a meaningful and lasting impact. Over the years, he has approached every role with a deep sense of responsibility and a true desire to serve, always putting the needs of local families and businesses at his forefront. Today, we come together to express our gratitude for his service, his leadership, and the care he continues to show for our region. It's my sincere honor to welcome District 2 County Supervisor Joel Anderson.
You know, the Rotary gives back a lot of time and treasury into the community. They do incredible things. Go to their website. While I'm a Quanian, I would never discourage anybody from not becoming a Rotarian. And you don't have to do both. Either one is good by me. I'd like to present this to you. It's an award of $5,000 from my office to help you. I know that you applied for a specific grant. I don't want to waste everybody's time on it. I know that you'll spend it wisely. You always do. And I'm happy to support all the great work that you do in the community. So, Jeff, thank you so much. This introduction was a little longer and full of more accolades to have been angry. You know, we went over it. So here's the deal. I want to hear what everybody has to say And I want to make sure that you understand that we've had these before, and KUSI one time was in the parking lot with me at 11:30 at night. That's the last constituent that was speaking to me. But here's the issue. A lot of your neighbors have just one question. They want to get the question, and then they want to bug out of here and head home with their family. So we're not going to allow statements early on, but after the questions are done, you can make all the statements you want. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to listen to every one of you. Having said that, I also want to thank Oasis of Rancho Bernardo. Oasis has been, I don't know if you're familiar with what they do, but how'd you get this one? But they help seniors, they enrich their lives, they teach classes how to use the computer, exercise classes, all sorts of wonderful things in the community. When La Mesa was in my district, I was very supportive of them in the Grossmont Center, and I'm happy to support them here now because this is part of my district. So they have been so kind. They don't charge us for this. They just think it's good public service, and they allow us to have this access. So I want to make sure that I give them the shout out they deserve. In between Oasis and the Rotarians, we're in good shape today. So having said that, what I generally like to do is start off with questions. Any speech I would give you, you're going to ask me that question, and then you have to hear my answer twice. So I will weave my speech in to all your questions, but let's go ahead and start with a question if anybody has one. Yes, sir.
This is a historical reference, 2003 and 2007 big fires. My question to you is, do the military commanders, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Do the military commanders still participate in the San Diego City Disaster Council? And if so, do they integrate their resources and assets with mission rehearsal exercises? Just kind of like, yeah, we know there's a requirement, and if we have an incident, we'll participate.
I have no idea whatsoever.
Okay.
So, but we can track that down and we can get you the answer. Now, I met with County Fire Chief, Chief Meacham, and I asked him because we had just expanded Ramona, and I'm very pleased with it. I'm the only supervisor that lives in the unincorporated, and I live in Harbison Canyon. There's never been a fire in San Diego County that didn't come through my neighborhood. I moved there almost 40 years ago, and within the first 3 weeks was my first evacuation. The Cedar Fire, for many of you, you may not know this, but I served 12 years representing you in the state legislature, and we lost in the Cedar Fire in 2003. We lost 2,000 homes in my Senate district, and a lot of homes in the Witch Creek Fire in 2007. So I'm quite familiar with it. Some of the things that I have done that I'm very proud of is one of the first things I did was I did a board letter to purchase roughly a $20 million helicopter that fights fire at night. We never had that capacity. So we would work like demons during the day, and then all the aviation had to be grounded. And those fires don't take time off. They go 7/24. And so, you know, it was really hard, like in the Cedar Fire and the Witch Creek and some of the other ones. So now we have 2 helicopters, both fight fire at night, and our Chief Meacham has worked out with CAL FIRE to get us an additional, and I forgot the terminology, but it's a water bomb. So we have all these capacities that we've never had before. And let me tell you, some of my colleagues, one in particular, had said on 3 occasions that if nobody lived in the backcountry, we wouldn't have any fires. I live in the backcountry, California, and I can assure you that none of our homes burned down from the inside out. Those fires were started outside our homes, and they overwhelmed us. And what I suggested to her to think about is, we're the canary in the coal mine. You see, when I smell smoke, I know my family's at risk and my community's at risk. So I'm on the phone to the fire department, bing, right away. If I see smoke, bing, I'm on the phone. Last summer, we caught over 200 fires and put them out when there were fewer than 10 acres. Now, if you have winds whipping and you have this dry debris, if you don't catch it right away, you're not going to catch it. You're going to try to steer it until it runs out of fuel, but you're not going to put it out. So it's really important that we react. And my position with her is we need more canaries in the coal mine, not fewer, because that's when things get out of place. And most of those fires are not natural fires. They're arson. We have a lot of arson. Some of it's purposeful, some of it isn't. One of the things that I did is I had put in a no camping ordinance, and because I'm the only one that lives in a rural community, everybody else lives in the cities, they had a hard time with it. I'm just being mean to the homeless. No, that's not true. If you saw some of the open brush in my district, if you start a fire there, you're not going to run it. 3 people died in their cars fleeing the Cedar fire, and they couldn't outrun it. And at the end of my street, I noticed that there's a school, and I noticed that all the school parking was on down the street. And I thought, that's weird. And it dawned on me, they had announced that President Bush was going to tour the Cedar fire. And so I immediately knew he's coming to the end of my street because they wouldn't allow anybody to park near the helicopters landing at the school. So I got my kids, and they were at the time, I think, 7 and 5, my 2 oldest. And we ran over there to see the president and Governor Schwarzenegger take a tour of my district. And I looked, and there was a 4x4, and it was like mildly smoke damage. Like somebody had taken a torch and just gone like this and browned a little bit. No big deal. But there were little pellets of metal below it. And I thought, what the heck? It dawned on me. The fire was so intense, 2,000 degrees centigrade, it melted the metal, but didn't stay there long enough to catch the wood on fire. It blew through. Can you imagine a fire of that intensity, and you're going to outrun it? You're not going to outrun it. You're going to die. And I don't think, whether you're homeless or not, that anybody should be treated in a way that costs them their lives. So I pushed hard for that. My colleagues came around to it. But, you know, I'm the only supervisor that's in the unincorporated. Everybody is more coastal. They're all, I believe, east of the I-15, or west, excuse me. I'm the only one east. So now you know why I didn't give you a speech, because one little question demanded 5 minutes of answer. Anybody else have a question? Yes, ma'am. Now come back.
I do, since we're talking wildfire, I do have a question. I've lost my home. You need to speak up. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I lost my home in the 2007 wildfire in Rancho Bernardo, and I moved to unincorporated county. I'm not used to the microphone.
You're doing great.
Okay, thank you. Unincorporated county and a shelter center, which is off of Community Dumpster. And now, an area that was supposed to be a wildfire buffer zone, there's a proposal for a housing development right there. And our neighborhood, myself, are concerned about evacuation bottlenecks. And developers trying to push it through on a 30-year-old environmental impact report. So we're wondering if you can do anything at the county to require them to really look at the evacuation bottlenecks, to issue a new environmental impact report and not try to push it through on a streamline.
So how that works is, I don't get involved at that level, because it's going to come to a vote before me. And if I take a public position in any way, shape, or form, I can't vote on it. So we're restricted by state law. However, there's a whole process they have to go through. Your planning group is the first hurdle they have to work their way through. Then it's got to go to the planning commission, and all along the way, and then they have to do the environmental reports. They have to present those, and that's a public meeting where you can give input and ask those questions and request it. And then there's always, what generally happens is, somebody in the community will sue the developer, and then it'll work its way through the court. So there's a lot of steps on the way there. Can I have somebody give her one of our cards to do a follow-up? What I'm going to do is, if you let us know specifically the development, we can find out where it is in the process and where you can be involved in the next step, if that's helpful.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to do that. And I'm sorry you lost your home. So I was in the state legislature in 2007, and I had to write 3 laws that allowed you to rebuild. See, the county and the cities all said that we're going to expedite the permits. Some people took more than 2 years to get their permits to build their home. If you lose your home and you you don't rebuild within a year, you lose your Prop 13 discount. And they reassess you as a new home. So if you're a senior and you have that home, like I've had mine for 40 years, while my insurance, my taxes have gone up 2% each and every year, my home is 5 times more valuable than I purchased it. And if I had to pay those taxes, I can afford to live in it. So the reason that Prop 13 as a senior, I'm 66, I'm a senior. It allows me to stay in that home. Otherwise I couldn't afford to live in that home. So I was scared to death for those folks. 3 times I had to extend it in order to do it. Now there were still 7 homes that didn't get rebuilt in a timely fashion, but that wasn't the county or the city's problem. What happened is some of these homes were over 100, close to 200 years old. And back then, they used meets and bounds, so they just walked off your property line. And what happened is when they went to rebuild it, they used GPS, and they found out they didn't own that land. That land belonged to their neighbor, and their lot lines were too small to rebuild. And it's sad, but I don't know what else. I don't know what government can do. The only thing I can think of is I hope they had title insurance, because title insurance is supposed to guarantee that the property lines are your line. So hopefully there was a settlement for them. But those homes weren't built for that reason. Yes, sir. And while he's doing this, does somebody have a question on this side? Okay, we're going to go to the woman in blue next. So as soon as I'm answering, you can start running. Go ahead.
Okay, so my issue is homelessness, and I grew up here, and I don't recall homeless being the traffic lights and begging for change. But now I see it in downtown San Diego, and I see the traffic people on the sidewalk. It's really sad, and I know from a nationwide perspective, there's more homeless in the U.S. now than at any time in our history, and supposedly we're origination, but isn't picking around those who really need it.
I need you to get to a question.
So what works and what hasn't worked? What can we learn from other cities? What can we learn from other countries?
Okay, so a couple quick things. When I ran for office, on my big 4x8s, I wrote fix homelessness. And that was pretty bold of me to put. Let me share with you, and then I'll tell you how I did it. Over the last 4 years, I've lowered homelessness in my district by double digits. Last year, it was like 10, 12 over the previous 3, but last year I lowered it by 37%. I'm the only supervisor that's consistently lowered homelessness, but I'm also the one that put it on my campaign signs. What I did is, I'm old enough to remember 60 years ago we sent a man to the moon with a slide rule. Why we can't solve this is beyond me. So I looked at it and I went at it methodically. The first thing I did is I said, I don't want the city of El Cajon pushing their homeless into the unincorporated. And I don't want our sheriffs and our outreach pushing them into El Cajon. So why don't I reach out to all the cities in my district and ask them to send an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, say that when you're going to send a team out to work with the homeless, we send out a regional team. So we're not pushing them down the street, we're getting them off the street. That's the first thing. The second thing is, let's look at it in a way that I want to help the people, starting with the people easiest to get off the street. See, I served 12 years in the legislature. When I was in the state senate, when they did the point in time count, are you all familiar with the term point in time count? So when they do it here, I was in Sacramento, so I never did it in my district. So I had no idea. So when I became supervisor, it's the first time I did the point in time count. Let me tell you, it's a little scary when you do it. You're going out at 3 in the morning and knocking on 10s and 4s because you want to catch them before they start walking around, and you want to get an accurate number. And I'm thinking, I'm the youngest of 8. I have 5 brothers. I knocked on their door at 3 in the morning. I got pounded. So I'm thinking, how's this going to go? Well, I went with somebody that was seasoned, who works with the homeless all the time, and I was amazed. People were very open, very kind. A couple times people said, hey, leave me alone. But most people got up, and then we had a little questionnaire on our phone. and we'd ask them, do you have any addiction to drugs? And they say, oh yeah, heroin, oh yeah. And they just tell us. I was shocked at the honesty. And then we'd say, well, do you have mental health issues? Yeah. Or they didn't. So I ran into this couple, and I believe they were from Minnesota or Wisconsin. And they came out here, when I got elected, it was in 2020, so we're right in COVID. And this young couple's there, and I said, have you been homeless long? And they said, we've been homeless for about 2 weeks. And they told me that they had come out here for a job, the job disappeared, and they had nothing else, and they didn't know what to do. And I said, in Minnesota, wherever you're from, do you have family there or anybody there that would vouch to have you back? And they said yes. You see, unlike Phoenix, who took all their homeless in the 80s and shipped them to San Diego, we have a bus program to take people home, but somebody has to answer the phone and say, yes, we want them. We don't just ship people out of our county. We're better than that, unlike Phoenix, of which we sued, and they paid us for all the social services that they dumped on us. So this couple, within 3 days, they were on the bus home. So we got them off the street, boom. The next guy had been homeless, he said, for 28 years. Well, I'm not gonna get him off the street overnight. There's no way. But when I talked to him, I learned a lot. He said, yeah, that's Bud over here. Bud's my buddy. When I go down, he watches my stuff. And when he goes someplace, I watch his stuff. And there's Joe, and there's Ed. He had a community of like 5 friends. And I got caught up with it. You know, in politics, we always say stupid things. As soon as I asked the question, I realized what a dumb question it was. But I said to him, I said, well, where do you live? He goes, in El Cajon, of course. Can't you see that? Well, I was thinking, like, where did you live last in actual housing, not a tent on the street? On Magnolia, we had 122 tents, and I'm proud to say within 6 months, we got everybody off the street in some improvement housing. Now, so what I did is I first looked at how can we do it as a region, so that we're not pushing everybody. And some of the homeless, they want to be homeless because that's their norm. You've been on the street 5 years, that's your norm. You can't imagine not living on the street because you've lived there for too long. So what they do is when you come to enforce, there's the border of El Cajon, they go to El Cajon. As soon as you leave, they go right back. And you're playing this cat and mouse game. So when we come out together, we actually address the issue. Second thing is, I looked at all the research I could find. The fastest growing number of homeless is seniors, 55 and older, with a spike at 65. Can you imagine? And all I could think of is, a lot of these people retired in the 80s, 1980s, on 60 grand. And that's like retiring today on 100 grand. You think, man, I'm living large. But then inflation and everything caught up to you, taxes and the cost of government, all these things caught up to you, and now that's your rent. 5 grand is not unusual for someone to have is rented now. So the studies that I read said $500 would keep them in their home. You see, if a person becomes homeless, it's way more expensive to chase them down and treat them than it is to avoid their homelessness. And if I'm a pretty spry guy at 66, but if I had to live on the street, how long could I go before having PTSD? How long before I start self-medicating and have addiction issues? It's very hard to live in fear on the street when you're 80 years old or 70 years old. And so my thought was, and I did a board letter, that we do pilot programs giving people up to $500 to keep them in their homes. That to me was far less expensive than treating them on the street, give them a better quality of life. And what's one of the most important things that we can do? We can treat our seniors the way we want to teach our kids to treat us. If we discard our seniors, then when we become seniors, we shouldn't be surprised when our kids discard us. So it's really important for government to actually be there as a safety net and help these folks. The second thing, I'm glad I didn't start a speech because now I know all this. But the second thing I did is I created safe parking. We had lots of people living in their cars. And most of them have jobs. But because of COVID, they lost their job, lost their apartment, and they're living. We had a woman who was 82 years old who was living in her car. And we had families. Anybody that works with the school district knows almost every school district in San Diego County has kids that the parents live in a car. And they live in the car. And, 3 o'clock in the morning, when your 5-year-old has to go to the bathroom, or you're 82 and you have to go to the bathroom, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You end up in the bushes in somebody's neighborhood, and then people are all upset over the homeless in the bushes. And I get it. You shouldn't have people sleeping on your front lawn or using it as a restroom. But on the same token, we need to do more. We need to do better. So I created all the safe parking. So what happens is they have to be out by 7 in the morning, and they can't get in until 6. But when they come in at 6, we have bathrooms, we have showers, we have some hot meals, and most importantly, we're using our social services. See, this is the hard part. You hear people say, housing first, housing first. Well, that's not the answer. But it is the answer. Let me explain. Housing allows social workers to find the homeless. I'm working with one of my homeless staff that I'm looking here, and the last time I pointed to somebody, it got me in trouble, so I'm not gonna do that. But let's say he's homeless. How does our social worker check on him once or twice a week? Because he's gonna keep moving. He's not gonna stay in the same place. And he might be rousted along the way. So if you go with housing first, the importance of it is only if you have wraparound services that include social workers that are working with them to address their mental health issues, to address their addiction issues, and to make sure they have a meal and everything else. So the interesting part is after the first year, roughly 62% of the people that are in safe parking that I created within 6 months have moved to permanent housing because we've allowed them to accumulate enough money to get back into an apartment because most of them are working. The 82-year-old woman was working. And by the way, when I learned that she had moved to permanent housing, I was so relieved. People say, well, why do you do this? Because the endorphins fire off so strong when you lift people who have fallen through the cracks. And so that's one of the things I've done. There's a lot more that I've done, but I don't want to lose the rest of the crowd. I'm happy to go in more detail, but I've been systematic. I'm thinking if we can go to the moon with the slide rule, and now we have AI, why are we dumber than we've ever been? And all people want to do is kick them down the road, warehouse them, abandon them, and then they wonder why it's never solved. And am I going to solve all of it? No. We've had homelessness for as long as as far as history goes back. We used to call them hobos. They just didn't want to live within the confines of society. But the percentages, that's not hobos. Hobos should be like 1/10%. It shouldn't be a huge portion of our society. But we really need to think in terms, too, of everyone's different. Everyone has other issues. In my district, in El Cajon, there's an organization called ECTLC, East County Transitional Living Center. If you stay 30 days in their program, 92% of the people finish the program with a job and a place to live. And it's a 1-year program. It may take 2 years because many of the families where they became homeless, CPS took their kids. They couldn't provide for their kids. And they realized that I get you back situated, but unless I reunite your family, it's meaningless to you. So they go in an extra year to prove with their kids that they can provide for them and they're united. And when we think about, forget the politics of left and right, let's talk about how we feel about people and how we feel about our neighbors and what we're doing to close those gaps and make sure that everyone has. I kind of joke, I say, we win when everybody finishes the race together. You can't abandon people. And so I get a beat down because a lot of people say, oh, you're soft on homelessness, you just want housing first. they're not educated on the issues. They understand the wraparound services and the importance of social services doing that work. So, you know, there's a way to solve all these problems. It's just not a light switch, it takes work. Yes, Rita?
Hi, Supervisor Anderson. I'm representing the Friends of the Forest Ranch Library, and my question is, we've been patiently waiting for over a decade regarding the expansion of the Forest Ranch Library. Do you have any projection onto the timing of that expansion? Because our circulation, what we do for the community is, we're like fourth in circulation for the entire county. We're like, it's a huge number for a teeny little space, and we've been working on the art. So do you have any projections as far as when that will happen for the Forest Ranch Library?
I have advice. Don't hold your breath. So, 30 years ago, my community of Alpine was promised a park. We don't have a park. We have 19,000 people and no park. Zero. And I'm still working on it. And when I got elected, I was shocked to learn it was even in the queue, because I'd given up on it, because my kids were born then, and now I have grandkids. Now they have my grandkids. So I'm hoping my grandkids get to see it. Here's where it's getting sticky. Everybody that's been elected lives in a city, and you're unincorporated.
Yeah.
There's nothing in our charter that protects your tax base from going to the cities. So I'm going to say stuff, and I'm not trying to make a political statement, but facts are facts.
So how does it protect it?
No, let me just walk you through. So one of the things that I did, and you know, in the city of San Diego, you have council members, they're your leadership. In the unincorporated, we have 5 supervisors, I'm 100% their government. 550,000 people live in the unincorporated. Second largest community behind the city of San Diego. So when I started, every year I put between 18 and 24 million into the budget as part of my asks to make sure you have the best roads in San Diego County. You drive through the city, good luck. You need 4-wheel drive. But in my district, we've done it. My colleagues have changed the direction in which we're going. So 4 years ago, they introduced the notion that anybody that crosses our border from the south deserves to have an attorney. And we paid $5 million to make sure they had public defenders. This is our community money. This year, it grew to 19 million, and they reduced our road money by 10 million. So while we had the baseline, and I got more on it, their direction is more city-focused and more ideological arguments. It's not our job. We're the only county in the nation giving legal advice to people crossing the border. And I'm not saying that whether that's good or bad, but if you were to ask most of my constituents, they would prefer to have a library, pothole-free, and a park. That's a federal lane. I'm a county lane. I'm your pothole guy. I'm not your federal immigration guy. And when I was in the state legislature, I was your state guy. I'm not your state guy anymore, so I don't do Caltrans, where I used to do Caltrans. So, you know, the problem right now in politics is everybody's in everybody else's lane, weaving for their next office, and no one's staying in their lane and providing for their job. And so, I'm gonna need your help. Your lane is to call in when we send out emails and we say, hey, this is going on, you need to be engaged. So, the county's gonna change its charter, and I proposed an alternate charter, because this new charter is gonna make it far worse than it ever was before. And it's gonna give the current, me included, an extra term on the Board of Suits, and that's not right. So, and by the way, if you all vote for it, I may run again, because you just send a signal you want me to run again. So, don't vote for it. But, joking, I'm not allowed to politic up here. So, but you have to be engaged, pushing for it. So what happens is we'll have things going on in the budget. We send out a whole bunch of emails on the budget. I have 700,000 people in my district. I can't knock on everybody's door. And so if you contact my office and say, this is the most important thing to me, we will send you, we tag you in the constituent file, and we'll send you stuff on it, but you gotta show. You know, somebody says to me, oh, this is the most important thing in the world. I said, well, can you call in? Can you? No, I can't. I can't get up and say to my 4 colleagues, 3 votes control my district. 3 votes controls everybody's district. I can't say, this is the most important thing in my issue. And by the way, nobody in the 700,000 people I represent thought it was important enough to call in on this board issue. And that happens to me a lot. And so I can't, I'm with you. I can't, if you think that any politician cares more about you, your family, your community, or your profession than you do, well, I can't help you. You're wrong. They don't. And so I look out and I can see 1,000 opportunities. You know how I prioritize the 3 I'm going to do? Who's going to go in the fight with me? So make sure you sign up. We gave out a bunch of stuff earlier. If you haven't signed up, and even if you have, you can update it. But there's a sign-up sheet, and you can say the things you're interested in, and we try to keep you informed. I'm not top-down, I'm bottom-line. I've been elected consistently because we're in the community. I'm going to brag about my internship a little bit. We have 150 interns. All these young people you see, they're interns. Zach, where do you go to school?
UCSD, sir.
Okay, well, he's the exception. We have a lot of high schoolers. But he's an excellent school. He's an intern. He put this whole program on. He organized it, he recruited interns, and he made it happen. My previous chief of staff, who went on to bigger and better things, she interned for me. We hired from the internship, and we have all these kids out there networking, because it's important for me to hear from you so I know what to prioritize. In the handout that we gave you is a booklet, and I see it over there, but I don't know that I have a copy of it here. And in that booklet, I have town halls, and every time we have a town hall, we're taking notes. And everything that people say that's important to them, that's the title of the page. And then I report back next year in the next year's booklet on what I did on the subject that you said was important to you. And we've done this each and every year because I think that I need to be accountable to you, and that's my report card. So there are things, I absolutely want to work with you on that, but you've got to get into our system so we can notify you, and then you need to organize your community to call in. They reduce what we call capital improvement projects, CIP. In my district, all the CIP projects have been delayed an additional 5 years. They took our reserves and spent them. We had 30 days of reserves. Now, I've been in the Cedar Fire, I've been in the Ridge Creek Fire, none of my colleagues. They all live in the city. They weren't impacted by it. So they said, well, you know, we could put that money to work. Most of the money went to raises and bonuses for our staff. It didn't take care of stuff. If you wanted to use the reserve, it should have been to build that library, to build my park. I did fight hard that they're going to rebuild a 150-year-old fire station in Descanso so we can better address the back fires. So it's a constant battle all the way up. If everybody lives west of the 15, their priorities are not the same as ours. You know, I'm on Sandag and they say, we need more free buses for the kids. If you live in Alpine, we get 2 buses. They leave at 10 in the morning and come back at 3 in the afternoon, and they only go to El Cajon. Exactly how do you use those buses? Where's the bus for my district? Potrero, 900 people live there. The average household income is $28,000. One out of every 105 resident is a sexually violent predator. It's a dumping ground, and they're one of the poorest communities. Even the city of El Cajon, the average household income in El Cajon is $58,000. So I have pressing needs in the district, and I try to prioritize those communities that have nothing. Your community's a priority, but you don't have nothing. You have a lot. You could drive to a lot of other libraries. I don't think you should have to. I think your kids should be able to walk to their library, and I want to fight for you on it. But when I'm looking at the pecking order of object poverty, I've got to address those who have been left behind. Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Sure.
Lake Hodges has been in the paper and been in the community talking lately. Let me use that, or can you?
No, you're good. I think everyone can hear you.
You know, what is the county's thoughts on that? You know, it seems like they're talking about we need a new dam, but it's gonna be a huge amount of money. Is it possibly better to fix the dam we have, or is that
So
way down on the pecking order also?
So that's not my district, and I'm not sure that's a county reservoir.
It is a city reservoir.
Yeah, so I don't go to their city council meetings.
Okay.
So we can, let's get a card to this gentleman, and we'll follow up and tell you where to go for the answer.
Yeah.
But I don't believe,
Well, the
do
only
you
thing
have a
is-
flyer?
Well, the only thing is that, you know, the fire danger because.
Oh, I agree.
Where it used to be a lake is.
So-
It's sort of like a jungle now.
So I don't control that,
No.
but what I do control, here's more of my speech, is we have put kilo water containers throughout my district. So over by the zoo, which is in my district, but if you take one step out of the zoo, it's not my district. We put, I forgot what they call them, these helo pads, and it allows them to dip, and the water's like in a huge container the size of this room, and they can do it, because I'm concerned about that, and we can't allow others to control our destiny. So I've tried to do it. The other thing is, I push very hard to have all of the ravines clear, and also all the roads clear too. You know, in some of the areas of my district, the foliage has gone into the streets. When you're thinking about evacuation, that makes it very dangerous. And when you're dealing with rains or you're dealing with fires, having trees growing in our ravines and riverbeds is not helpful. When I say in, I mean on the riverbed. It blocks it and you have all sorts of problems. So I'm trying to address it, but I'm trying to address it from my lane and what I can control. So, somebody on this side? Anybody? Oh, a whole bunch of people. Let's go to the gentleman in the far back, and then we'll come up here to this lady, then back to this side.
Supervisor, you brought up a very interesting point with respect to cleaning up the ravines and brush, and that's county fire. I happened to have the privilege to go to a meeting this morning that talked about zero zones that are being set up by
On the
San
homes.
Diego, which to most homeowners is going to be $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000 worth of improvement. So my question is, what have you been successful in doing, and where do you see it going with respect to the county doing their job to clean up the origination sources of most of these fires, whether they're set or naturally caused? Almost all of them that have come through, and I'm a 35-year resident of RB, from rural or foresty areas that have not been cleared and then come up through the residential.
So some of those fires started in Mexico, so we have no ability to clear. Every time we talk about clearing, every environmental group in the world shows up. It's uphill in both directions. I've not had nearly the success I would like to have had in that. If my colleagues would not vote for what you're recommending, I had to beg and plead to just get the roads clear and the ravines. And because I did do the ravines, and at that time, Spring Valley was in my district. See, I grew up in Spring Valley. I know how it floods. We only lost, I think it was 2 homes or 4 homes got flooded. In this last rain, were over 400 homes in San Diego, and it was because we cleared up those ravines, and that was my board letter. But if you go by the Spring Valley Old Drive-In, that's a flood zone. It's always been a flood zone, always will be a flood zone. Every time it rains, you got a pool there, and not a small pool, the whole parking lot goes, and that impacts everybody. So I made it a point to do that, but I'm one voice of 5, and I have to present it in a way that somehow somebody representing Encinitas would care, or somebody who represents ID would care. And so that's the challenge I face all the time. You've never heard me badmouth my colleagues. I've always been very polite and civil, because at the end of the day, it's about representing you and making sure these things get done. And once you insult your colleague, you can't go back. You've lost the vote. So I wish I had better answers for you, but that's, you know, I've been on this job for 5 years. By the way, every year I learn something new about my job and about how to be better at it. Go ahead, we'll see what we get.
Okay. So planning groups and residents have been very loud about speaking out against the expansion of the socially equitable cannabis program. This coming Wednesday is going to be heard at the Board of Supervisors. Residents are concerned regarding environmental impacts, safety impacts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What would you suggest we tailor our comments on Wednesday in order to get a small win? Is there any suggestions?
So,
State that, we didn't hear the question.
can we get the mic over real fast?
Sorry.
No. This is this is a really sticky wicket. Go ahead.
Okay, so this Wednesday, the county is, the Board of Supervisors will be voting on the socially equitable cannabis program. They plan to expand, and add up to 25 pot shops, cultivation, lounges, et cetera, et cetera. They plan to expand pot in the backcountry to a very high level. And planning groups and residents have spoken out against it quite a bit, but seem to not be heard. So my question is, on Wednesday, those of us who do want to come and do want to speak out, what would you suggest we focus our comments on in order to be heard or possibly have a small win, if
So,
there's anything?
To give you a background on it, the county years ago allowed 5 cannabis shops. 4 of them are in my district, one's outside my district. There are no complaints about them because they went through their planning groups. 3 are in Ramona, one's in unincorporated alcohol, and one I think is in Culver. They went through the process like every other business. They didn't get fast tracked. They weren't giving them equitable whatever. They had to do it like every other business. And I have no complaints. Now, when I first got elected, though, we had illegal pot shop next to Lakeside Elementary. In fact, we had over 200 illegal pot shops. And in my district, a lot of people didn't like one of my colleagues, Nathan Fletcher. But Nathan Fletcher and I had a great partnership. We had a great working relationship. And Nathan, joint author a board letter with me. Remember, 3 votes control my district. I'm hoping that I can get 1 vote, but when someone joint authors a board letter, it's hard for them to vote against it. So I'm knocking down 2 votes before I start, and I'm not allowed to talk to anybody else because it's a Brown Act violation. So what happened was, Nathan did a board letter with me, $2.8 million. We gave to the sheriffs and to the DA, and we shut down over 200 pot shops in 6 weeks. Some of them had to be shut down as many as 6 times. They make 30 grand cash each and every day. And we had Crips and Bloods from LA coming down and robbing them. It was really bad. And there's no regulation. Who knows what they were selling? Probably fentanyl. So that was the first step. Then they wanted to push forward with this new program. And I said I would support it if you took some amendments. And the first amendment was, you can't have a weapons charge. You can't tell somebody, I'm pro Second Amendment, and my colleagues are always trying to limit the Second Amendment, but you're going to give people a grant who were convicted of owning a ghost gun, and you're making them a priority? That makes no sense. So I don't think if you have a weapons charge, you should ever benefit selling drugs. The second thing was, I said, you know, City of San Diego, La Mesa, all these cities have done different things with their programs and what they presented. I said, I don't think we should have, and I forgot the distance, and I may get this wrong, so bear with me, but state law says that you have to be 700 feet. Is that right, 7? 600 feet. And I said, well, from a school. I said, well, why can't we make it 1,000? And they agreed. And I said, well, why just a school? How about a nursery? Should those kids have to smell this? So they agreed. And I said, well, how about a park? Kids are playing in the park. Do we want people toking, blowing smoke in their face? Can't smoke a cigarette there. So they agreed. And then I said, churches. And they agreed to all of it. And then there were 2 more elements. And that would have made it livable for most of my communities. Then Nathan left the board, and Nora Vargas left the board, and the new members said, you didn't make a deal with us. So the votes have been 3-2, and we've been voting against it because what they're doing is going to destroy the unincorporated. And so it used to be that District 5 would have like 40% unincorporated in the district. I was 40% unincorporated. In District 1, it's like 30% unincorporated. Big voting blocks. So the majority of the Board of Supes, that's the only government for the unincorporated, had a good influence on who represented them. In the most recent redistricting, they lowered me to 30% and made City of San Diego, which used to be 14, 38% of my district. So now the unincorporated is spread out among all the districts, so they're useless. If 10% doesn't vote for you because you steal their money and give it to a city, what do you care? So when cannabis lobbyists come to you and say, oh, it's the most important thing ever, you can experiment. When my colleague says that she doesn't like the police, she's not talking about San Diego PD. She's talking about my sheriffs that protect me. If you don't like police, get rid of your police, but don't mess with my police. That's the challenge we have. These people don't live in our communities. They can be as thoughtful in new ideas and as open-eyed as they wish to be at the expense of us. We're the petri dish. Getting back to your point. So we're the petri dish. And that's why it's important that we show up. And I've sent out all sorts of notices, and I gotta tell you, when 200 people showed up for the cannabis, we had 12. 12 from my district, or from the unincorporated. They weren't even from my district, some were from Baldwin. How do I stop? I'm just one person. I get things done because I create a tsunami of support and overwhelm my colleagues. And what we really need to do is get Spring Valley engaged for District 4. Rancho Santa Fe engaged for, I believe, Tara Loss Reamer, that's her district. And Bonita involved for District 1. But if those people don't show up, they feel nobody in their district cares. They're listening to all the NGOs that are whispering in their ear from LA. We had over 80 people come from LA to tell us how to do it right in San Diego. I went to college in LA. They don't do anything right. So I hope that's helpful to you. But this is, so I tried, for 2 years I tried to get Alpine, Lakeside, and Ramona to become a city so we can control our own destiny. And everybody in my community said, oh, no, it's not that bad. Yeah, it is. Now we're learning. When everybody lives in a city and they represent you, meaning any community where the city of Chula Vista gets to make choices for the city of Vermont. No, that doesn't work that way. But IB, Encinitas, Oceanside, and San Diego get to choose for the incorporated. That's not it. We should be able to have a bigger voice. 550,000 people, we don't have a vote at San Diego. I've been working on that too. Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Now stand up.
okay.
Former intern. Just want to give a quick shout out.
So going to this gentleman's point on the Lake Hodges with the water going down and everything, what are your thoughts on the possibility of building an AI data center in District 2? Because Powell was going to have one built, but they rejected the proposal.
I'm not against data centers. I think a lot of what the public says is incorrect. That's not what the science says. And I'm not talking about political science. I'm talking about empirical science. But I don't choose that. The community chooses it. I represent the community. I don't dictate. I'm not a king, and I don't tell people how to live. But I do love serving, so I listen to what the community says. There's a whole process to go through. I will say this just as a principle. Data centers take a lot of power, and they would have to create a microgrid and their own power source, because nobody should have to pay and subsidize their power. They talk about the high use of water. That's factually incorrect. That was been proven in study after study that they don't use a lot of water. They may have a lot of water initially, but it's a closed cooling system. It's like saying your car uses a lot of water. Yeah, it circulates and cools things, but you're not refilling it all the time. So, again, we sent a man to the moon 60 years ago with a slide ruler. I think we can address it, but we've got to address it in a way that it's a benefit to the community, not disadvantaging the community. Yes. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So you start the assembly, 80 members, 460,000 constituents, give or take. You go to the Senate, 80, you go down 40, it's about 1 million people. You're down here now, you said 700,000 for the district. It's a big county, it's a big district, but you're here, literally, and figuratively you're not in Sacramento. That jump going from internal to the state at the state level, representing give or take about the same people, same amount of people to be in the county. What did that feel like when you made that switch? You've been doing it for 5 years. Seems like you like it because you're going to stay, you want to be a treasurer.
Well,
what's
the
different?
voters said I'm not going to be treasurer, so that item's over. And I'll tell you why I even thought about it. So, when I first got elected to the state senate, my district went from Lake Elsinore to Lemon Grove. I had 1.4 million. And during the redistricting, I lost Riverside County. So, you're right, it's 1 million. If I was the dog catcher, I'd love it. Every position's been different. When you went to the assembly, they said, oh, the Senate's going to be, no, the Senate's completely different. In the assembly, it's so big, nobody knows anybody else's name. In the Senate, everybody is in your business. So you conduct things differently. I loved it. I did 343 bills with Democrats. I've always been bipartisan. I had the most conservative vote by a long shot. However, you know what my district needed? It needed fire safety. That's not partisan. I wrote the privacy law on your cell phone. I divested our public pensions from Iran. We had $24 billion invested in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The only problem with that investment was Ahmadinejad at the time said he wanted to nuke us, and I believed him. And I thought they could nationalize our money. How do I go back to you and say, well, I got to raise taxes because I thought it was a good idea to invest in Iran? Somebody did say to me jokingly at a community coffee like this when I was in the assembly, he said, what, North Korea wasn't available? So you elected me to do big things, to really work on homelessness, to really work on the things that are most important in your life. And while I had the most conservative vote, because I believe that when you empower people, good things happen to them. I just want to make sure it's a level playing field. And but I did more bills with Democrats than all my Republican colleagues combined. And yet, I was the most conservative vote. And I'm going to tell you my strategy on that. You see, no other Republican get to my right. I was the most conservative. So when I vote for it, a moderate Republican has political cover to vote for it. So who did I do my bills with? Nancy Skinner. Where's she from? Berkeley. Nobody could get to her left. I called it my bookend strategy. If she and I agree, you all have to vote for it. There's no place to hide. You can't get to her left, you can't get to my right. And I just invested in them to get to know them, to find out what we had in common. Turns out we have a line, 343 bills of common. In all good bills that improved. Mark Leno and I did 26 bills together. We wrote the privacy law on your cell phone. Wired magazine said it was the best bill in the nation. Every state should follow suit. So I may be from East County, but you elected me to do big things. And that's what I focused on. That's why I reached out with Nathan, I reached out with Nora, I did board letters with all my colleagues, except for a few who chose not to do it with me. So, what I don't want to do is have a community coffee like this, and have to face you and say, I howled at the moon to get likes, and that's why you don't have a library. I'm not the problem in the library, it's a spending issue. But sometimes in local government, people are petty and punitive, and no constituent should have to pay that price. So I hope I answered it for you. Yes, sir.
Coyotes.
Love them or leave them?
Well, forgive me. They need to be caught. If you read next door, almost every day there's a little dog or cat that's being taken, and nothing's being done about that. What is there anything being done about that?
We can look into it. I've looked into it. I don't remember off the top of my mind. On my street, I live in a fairly rural area. I'm in a subdivision, but it's in a rural area. There are 5 of them were trotting down my street, and they were so emboldened, they weren't scared by my car. And they're feasting on somebody's cat that night. So I agree with you.
Or little dog.
But I think I read a story of somebody in the city of San Diego who lost their animal, and they shot a coyote, and I think they got in trouble over it.
Well, they're probably still in prison.
So let's make sure we get them apart. Let's follow up and find out what the county's authority is. I'm wondering if animal control or something like that can intervene. It's not the best. Look, I've never voted on perfect. My entire career, I voted for better. Every vote I have is better or worse, never perfect. Sometimes horrible, but never perfect. So let's get you moving in the right direction. And we'll just keep chipping it away until we get them all. Yes, ma'am?
I understand that we, as a city and a county, have lost a lot of funding from the federal government for some of our social programs. I love that you have the intern program. My son participated in it when he was between high school and college. I think it's a great program, but as our country ages, is there a sort of overall strategy to increase the amount of gap filling that we can fill with volunteers? And have you reached out to the senior community, the way retired senior volunteer patrol or sheriff patrol, have you reached out with them to intern in order to get more stuff done? Because we have shortfalls in so many different directions. So that would be a question.
I love your idea. I have not done anything. When I work with county staff, what you're suggesting is so far out of their scope of understanding. Remember, SEIU is their union. Every volunteer means just one fewer union job. So the scope of what you are suggesting, I love, because I think that there's joy in volunteering and there's joy in giving back. But that's not been. So during COVID, my colleagues voted to give a $42 million bonus to our county employees. We have just over 20,000 employees. I took their benefits and their salaries as a whole, and I divided it by the 20,000 plus employees, and it worked out to $121,000 per person. My city of El Cajon makes 58,000 household. I'm the one no vote. And I said, I'm not against our employees. I think they're terrific people. And they work hard. They mean to work. But you're making twice the amount that constituents make as a household income. I can't take from those who don't have to give to those who have. And for those reasons, I can't support it. Things are logical to everyone. It's a whole different world down there. It's all skewed. And this tax increase, this charter reform, it's all about union bonuses. That's what it really is about. When you dig down, that's what it's about. So, I love the idea. I would be very supportive, but I could take 100% of my bandwidth and I'll never get it done in the 2 years I have left. And I could have gotten it done. I've chosen to take most of my bandwidth and focus on mental health and homelessness. And I made huge inroads, but there's very little extra bandwidth in that. So I love your idea though. I just don't know how to do it without 2 votes. Yes, Dan in the back.
Thank you for offering comprehensive approaches to homelessness. My question is, how can we increase the number of mental health providers when CHG, the clinic I own is in El Cajon, it's in your district, but they close the panel. So when we need to provide services to homeless and people in needs in the county, I don't have enough providers. They block us.
These are the challenges that I'm up against all the time. And we've seen, now, one of the things that we've done is behavioral health has become just recently its own department. But we've gone through a series of leaders in that department who are very forward-thinking and innovative, who I've really liked. And for whatever reason, the board majority has thought to let them go. So, it's over 20,000 employees. I don't have any direct control over it. I have direct control over the CAO. And the direct control I have is, I have to be one of the 3 votes that says it, right? 3 votes control the whole thing. So that's the challenge. But I've worked really hard to bring more focus and attention. And then of course, because of where you are, that I have the largest number of refugees west of the Mississippi. We have Asians, but not the way you may think of it. Afghanis are Asians. They're not Middle Eastern. And the way the county counts all of the different races, they don't count them. They count them as if they're white. That skews the numbers. And so they don't qualify for the federal help they should get. So I push for the MENA numbers. I'm constantly trying to be one step ahead, making sure that we're not leaving money on the table. And people say, well, you're always after the free money. It's not free. It's starting in your back pocket. I'm trying to repatriate our taxes back to our communities. I don't think that we should be funding Del Mar. We don't live there. I don't think that we should be funding DC. I want to repatriate our taxes to our community. So we're happy to work with you on it. If you have ideas, I'm open to it. Some of the things I've tried and they failed, and there's not enough momentum, or I haven't thought of it. And if I haven't thought of it, let's try it. I'm all for trying it. But one thing I've learned in politics is there's always somebody with a better idea. I just have to figure out who they are. So, yes, sir.
You said you're the pothole guy. I'm curious,
If you live in San Diego, I'm not your guy.
using the Get It Done app, do you know exactly how many requests it takes on a specific thing before they respond?
I always run the risk in RB or Terrasana. We have a handout on how you can get hold of your city council person.
Okay.
It's really a question for them.
Got it.
And I'm the only supervisor that every time we have a budget, I'm insisting on more road money. Because you know what? Not everybody cares about every crazy idea out there. They do care about every road they ride on. So, somebody else back here, you have their hand up? Yes, sir.
My name's Chuck. This is my wife, Julie. We're from the San Francisco Valley, and we're here.
I think there's a lot of you today.
Yeah, we're here because we're interested in the San Francisco Academy and what's going on with the academy. We've been to every meeting from here and there and haven't really gotten anywhere. Been a little bit disappointed about the outcomes. We wanted to talk to you. We don't know if you have, the only way we could talk to you is to come here. So here I am. And wondered if you
Let
have
me get through, if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah.
Let me get through all the questions. I'm not gonna leave. I'll be here for you to hear.
Okay, my question is, will you meet with us to talk about San Francisco Valley?
Have you reached out to my office to meet with him?
Well, we have. Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go. You're on the right path. Perfect. Good job, staff. I'm sorry, who else had a hand up? Yes, ma'am.
Can you discuss a little bit about your use of AI around the county shelter and your plan that you use it?
So you're asking about AI. So I had a subcommittee here, and we went through, and we asked all sorts of AI experts, and we went through. There are some cities and counties in the nation that are using AI, and they're using it in a way, think in terms of your property taxes. Right now, somebody has to use a DOS system to chase it down, and then some of it's in actual paper. If we took that database and you could use AI to do any inquiry you want, we would save time, money, and frustration. To me, we should be doing this right now. There's no excuse not to do it. When you're writing a memo and you're trying to communicate something, why can't we use AI? I mean, first of all, I won't misspell any more words.
Yeah.
And I won't have to look at any more Christmas tree ornaments or red squigglies. But these are things that, we should be embracing the future. When I was in business, this fax schmax, that's so stupid. I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on a fax machine. And 2 years later, I couldn't get one fast enough because all my competitors had fax machines and they were sending quotes and things and I'm still doing it in paper. So when email came out, well, I was on the leading edge, not the leading edge, the bleeding. I was making mistakes left and right, but it proved valuable to my company. We have so much work to address at the county. Whatever we can do to make our employees super employees and make their jobs easier so they can accomplish more, this just seems like good common sense. I don't know if that's where you were going with your question, but I hope so. And let me tell you, it's like pulling teeth. SEIU, their union, very much against it. They asked that they be part of the hearings, and I had a hearing date assigned for them, and they refused to answer or show up. It is really interesting the power of the unions and how they get people elected. And I think it's easy for politicians to forget constituents elect us. No union elects us. Only the members that live in our district, only the people of our district can vote for us. And I'm not against unions. I have union support too. But we need to put things in perspective of how we lift the tide in the harbor for everybody. Question on this side? Okay, anybody else on this side? Yes, sir.
I'm not a retired physician, live down the street here, and I'm concerned about all the things that are happening to immunizations nationally, and I was just wondering if the county health department is going to ignore this and follow science. Splitting the MMR vaccine, for example, not a good idea.
You know what? I have no idea. The medical officer, I don't control, and I don't know what they're going to do or their stance on it. The issue I have is frequently people talk about follow the data, follow the science. We have this thing called vehicle miles traveled, and vehicle miles traveled are two things. One, they talk about charging you all a percent, an amount on every mile that you drive. And that's one. The other one is they look at driving patterns and they say that the 58,000 homes that were by right in my district can no longer be built without a $250,000 fine on each structure. And then they say, well, there's no affordable housing. Well, not with $250,000 on it, but if you went to Lakeside, there's plenty of places to build affordable workforce housing, $400,000 to $700,000. You know how they did it? They tracked your phones, but they didn't include any phones from Mexico. They didn't include any phones from Imperial, Riverside, Orange County. When I had my Senate district in Lake Elsinore, 400,000 homes were built. That district started with 13% of my district was Riverside, and within 4 years, 28% because they built all those homes. You know where they were? In my district. And when I used to drive up to Temecula to my office, I get to Nordall exit on 15, nothing. And I look around, and I think it's been over 7 years, I'd go 100. And I'd be up there in no time, because there's nobody there. I went there in January because I wanted to sample some wine, and it was 1 o'clock on a Sunday. It was bumper to bumper from Nordall all the way into Temecula. They didn't use that data. So it's junk science. It wasn't. It was political science, junk science. It wasn't real science. Because if you actually use the real traveling, then you'd say it makes perfectly good sense that Viejas, Morona, the biggest employers in my district who are adjacent to Lakeside, would have their workforce hired there with workforce housing, instead of those dealers coming from Temecula. Half of my sheriffs live in Riverside, and they patrol in my district. They prefer to live here. It's just they can't afford $1 million. They work for the government. So I'm with you, but I don't know anything about medicine. That's entirely their thing, and we don't drive. But I could get my little jab on DMT. So I think that we're down to the end on the questions. So if anybody wants to make a statement, by the way, you're all free to go. However, if you want to hear what your neighbors have to say, you don't have to look at next door. Why don't we start with the gentleman in the red shirt back here about San Pasquale Academy. This is your time to share your thoughts. And then anybody else who has a thought that wants to share, we'll come up to you next. All right.
Okay, I live out in the San Pasquale Valley. I own a ranch farm, a propane company, and work with at-risk youth for the last 15 years. I think the San Pasquale Academy could be made into an agriculture school and used to better our entire community, not just the youth that have been there, but open it up to vast kids. Agriculture is a big field. There's lots of jobs there, and the academy would be more suitable. This is short, but it would be more suitable to that type of activity. We're willing to help with that and talk to you about that in detail. We have a plan.
Make sure that we get your contact. I want to put you in contact with the county that's doing that. So I have more 4-H, FFA in my district. Where the biggest ag is in my district. I love that idea. What started all of it is this thing, the behavioral health, and what they fund and what they don't fund. And now we have so few students. Even when we look to recruit more students, it's hard to justify that we're paying $300,000 to $400,000 a year per person. There's not, it just doesn't make sense. And I've toured the facility over the years as a representative all those years. It's fantastic. When you talk to the youth that have gone through it, you have nothing but what they can say. But when the state doesn't sponsor it, that means that's money that we don't have. But it doesn't mean that we can't be thoughtful and creative and do something. I'm all for that. But let's put you in contact with the people there. They have plans for it. And when you try to nail them down on the plans, it's like a balloon with air in it. It goes off in a different direction. It's really hard to get it clear. Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon, Joel. I run the Rancho Bernardo Veteran Memorial Association. We do 3 ceremonies a year, and we came to Joel and asked for a grant, and he pointed us to his staff and said, "This is what you need to do," and it all worked. everything, you know, amazing.
I was a little worried that the direction was coming.
Well, it's real hard on you, like, when he's answering, it gives a sense that maybe a lot's not being done. But I wasn't gonna say anything, but I wanted to say, hey, look, we followed the process, we got a grant, and I just wanted to come today to say thank you, and it worked, and to the staff, and to the interns, and all the rest, it was a pleasant surprise for all of us, that really helps the community continue on kind of honoring our veterans we go forward. So, thank you.
I appreciate the kind words. You know, I put me the major focus on veteran halls in the district. We've spent over $1 million refurbishing them all. These were gifts from Congress. They're not a C5 or C4 nonprofit, C22, I believe, and it's the only one that's done. And yet, the state of California and some of the cities and counties have tried to steal it from our veterans. And while I didn't serve, when I go into a veterans hall and I look around, it's not what has been portrayed on TV. When you look around, you see Lolita coaches, you see Rotarians, you see Kiwanis. They're all still serving, but in different capacities. And in my district, because we're so rural, frequently that is the VA. A guy will go, a serviceman will go to the VA, they'll ask for something that they're entitled to, that they earned, and they didn't fill out the paperwork right, and they can't get it. World War II vets, Vietnam vets, get free hearing aids. We've got vets didn't know they had free ones, and they couldn't afford it, and yet they didn't know. But when they go to the Veterans Hall and they complain, I've got this issue, there's generally another veteran who says, you have to fill out this form. Did you fill out this form, or did you fill out that form? That's the wrong form. And all those things, I witnessed it firsthand, how important Veterans Halls, all these things that we're doing. And again, just like I say about our seniors, if we don't honor those who have served us, we're sending a message to our kids that we're not valuable and that it's not worth working for. So thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Anybody else have something to say?
I just wanted to say that I've been talking with your staff about doing a crosswalk across Stagios at Gateway for the Sylvia's Highlands Reserve Day, and very impressed. Also, this is my first time of attending a town meeting, and I'm very impressed with how you conducted your business.
Well, thank you. I do 8 to 12 a year, and this is really helpful to me because when you're talking, there's no middleman. And my predecessor used to have all the county staff with her, and they would answer the questions. No, I work for you. They don't work for you. I work for you. So I have to be your delegate down there, making sure you're heard. I'm sorry, finish. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you're on such a roll, I hope you wouldn't stop. You know, I've done these for a long time, and this one's very easy and smooth. You know, I wanted to address homelessness in Lakeside, and they have a big facility. We had 700, 1,000 people there. And they all asked me the same question because some business owner locally gave me questions and ginned them up to come in. And people are put off sometimes because they say, we gotta get through the questions first. Otherwise, somebody will just get a mic and talk all night. If you watch our board meetings, some people talk on every issue, whether they know anything about it or not. But their hair is a lovely shade of turquoise, or purple, or green, or whatever. So, I mean, they're sometimes they show up with capes. They're amazing. So, somebody will start without a question. We didn't have that tonight. And say, I'm sorry, you gotta get your question. You gotta get the question. And then about the third or fourth or fifth person, the person gets up and says, I work with your office. Your office is, you're such a great man. And I'm sorry, man, I get to a question. Everyone starts laughing because I treat everybody equally. Of course, you know, the joke is, every sweetest sound in a politician's ear is them. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Anybody else have something to say? And by the way, I'll stick around if you don't want to say it in front of anybody else. Yes, ma'am?
Again, I just wanted to say thank you for pushing back on Lawson Reamer's charter reform. You really came out strong and had presented a very reasonable alternative.
So, most people don't know this, so they put a charter reform in, and we need a charter reform. I'm not against it. So right now, if you run for county supervisor and you do illegal actions, but not criminal, like we have limits on how much money you can spend, and you spend beyond it, there's no recourse. We are not under the FPPC. That's who does the state, that's who does both cities. Because we're 3.5 million people, they don't go above 2 million, so we don't qualify. So they wanted to create our own political committee to hold people accountable. That's a good thing. I'm not against it. Then they want to have an auditor. I like auditors, but they want the auditor not to be elected. They want the auditor to be picked by 3 members of the board. And then 3 members of the board get to tell the auditor what to audit, when to audit, and they can fire them. And they said, well, that's independent. So I suggested that they be an elected official. Truly, if we're gonna audit, I want to fix it, right? Nobody has a problem in finding something wrong as long as you fix it. None of you are gonna be upset with me if we learn that we're squandering 10 million a year and I fix it, right? So we want that independence. Our board chair said in the paper that I was trying to politicize the office by making them elected. That's crazy talk. So up is down and down is up. Then they wanted to have term extensions so that we get 1 more term. The only 2 people impacted on that board is Kara and me. Nobody else. Then, in it, they wrote it in a way that's retroactive. No term limit ever in California over the last decade has been retroactive. They'll get struck down and we'll get 3 more terms. So I said, let's not even have a decision. It's only about 2 people. Let's say it's 12 years instead of 8 years for all newly elected. So it applies to the new people. We got elected during it was only 2 terms. I will say this again, I'll caution you. You vote for it, you're sending me a signal I should run again. So don't vote for it. So that was a difference. So I took all the rest of the ideas and I removed all the self-serving aspects. The other part is we have 5 people that we vote on. We have county council. We vote and choose that person. We have the CAO who runs the whole county. We choose that person. We choose the person's head of probation. There's 2 other offices. Those are the 2 biggest offices. They want to redo it so that they get to approve all hirings. You're the manager and your whole team's picked by your board. What do I know about the daily work of county workers? I don't manage it. That's horrible governance. Can you imagine in your company, a committee chooses your leadership for you? That undermines the leader. No one's going to listen to the leader, and no one's going to stick their neck out because they're going to be fearful that the board, if they don't like it. So when you think of civil service, we created civil service so that the mob bosses in Chicago, Tammany Hall, wouldn't say, give that guy, this gal, this whole side a job because they're the correct party. Yeah. It's patronage. We're going back to patronage. You see the pie that fills the pothole in my streets, it shouldn't matter what party he's in. But now he's got to worry that 3 board members may fire him. So how do they know the work that he's doing? They don't, except for to look at him politically. I want people to show up who want to be the best pothole filler ever, to have a job, not fearful that they're going to lose their job because they're not in the right party. So this kills civil servants. So I said, we're not going to do that. The last thing that was most important is right now we're prohibited from sitting down with county contractors. Because I can't go and say, these things are with county contractors. Sit down with them and say, hey, I'm a good buddy up near Escondido. He's got a propane business. Can we talk to him? Because I think it would be really important to really understand the market. It's undue influence. Now I'm scaring the business. Right now, I can't talk to him.
they're removing that moat. And now 3 votes will control our tax dollars as opposed to professional contracting firms. This is the wrong direction. And they're doing this as attorneys. So that's what it's about. So I offered all the stuff, cleaned it all out, and went with all the things that made sense. I presented it, and they had plenty of time. And it was a 3-2 vote. The board majority, who's going to be the biggest benefactors, pushed it through, put it on the election. And they're hoping, and Voice of San Diego asked me to debate our board chair, whose support letter was, on the merits, if she refuses to debate me in public over it. Look, not every, when I first ran, Union Tribune called me and said, how are you going to get all the votes? I don't get 100% of the votes with my wife. I'm not going to get all the votes. I just need 50% plus 1. That's what I want, right? You're not going to agree with me on everything, all my stance. You're not going to agree with me. I'm just hoping there's enough that you agree with me on that I'm doing a good job. And I think that's one of the challenges we have. Everyone wants to howl at the moon. They want to say, Trump's great, Trump's horrible, Biden's good, Biden's bad. That doesn't fill my potholes. My lane is to fill your potholes. My lane is to make sure on Thursday, Tuesday, I have a transparency board. There's been a subcommittee who's been meeting secretly, and they say they're transparent. But Voice of San Diego asked them for a records request, and when they received it, we had no knowledge of it. 3 of our colleagues had no knowledge. They spent over $300,000 on a polling company to put things on the ballot. First, I want to know that we're not breaking the law. You're not allowed to politics with public money. That's the first. Second is, I want to hear what they have to say. I presented one like this before, and my job is to bring people on board. It's easy to yell at people and say you're an idiot. What I say is, you work so hard, you go above and beyond what a county supervisor is expected to do, and I want to make sure your constituents see how hard you're working. So I'd like for you to be more transparent so they understand the work that you're doing. My job is to convince people why it's in their best interest to help all of you, because I represent you. It's not to pick a fight, not to howl at the moon, but to give transparent, effective, efficient, accountable government. And that's always what I've done. So, listen, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm still here if you have more to say. I appreciate, there's a lot of things you could do that still had air conditioning, and you chose to be here. So you care deeply about your community, and I, like you, want to make it a better place. Thank you. By the way, I love my job, and it's an honor to serve. Thank you.